going. Um, Hope everybody had a nice break and was able to get a little rest and relaxation in, um, and stay warm. Got pretty cold on some of those days there. This week we are going to be covering uh, AI powered lesson planning. So, um, Our goal here for the session is to master the integration of Gagné's 9 events. So we talked about this before in the other AI course, but um, it's good to go over again for the people who weren't in that one and who don't know about the 9 events of instruction. We're going to layer AI on top of that to create engaging lesson plans that support diverse learning styles. So we're also going to be going into a little bit about UDL, differentiated learning activities, um, while maintaining pedagogical soundness and alignment to course objectives. So a lot to kind of juggle with here today. So hopefully by the end, it'll make sense. Our outcomes here integrate Gagné's 9 events of instruction framework with AI-powered lesson planning tools. Uh, I mean, this is all kind of a rehash of what we just talked about in the session goals, so I'll just leave that there for you all to read. What we need is access to ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, whatever Gen AI you are, comfortable using. I've been using Google's Gemini a lot recently, in particularly Notebook LM. So maybe if anybody doesn't have anything to share in the next section, then we can talk about kind of what I've been working on, and if anybody else has explored those tools. Um, I am not paying for Gemini. I was able to. I'm also I'm also a curriculum instructional designer, instructor, and then also taking classes. So as a student, you're able to get Gemini Pro for a year. Uh,
That was what I was going to point out. And I think
okay.
right now it's like $100 for a year. It's like 26 some percent off too for a
Oh,
1 year pro. So
oh, okay. Yeah, it seems like they're really trying to get people to get in there and start using it, whatever way they can. If you have your syllabus and learning outcomes for Module 4, those will be helpful. I'll give you all some reference materials to Gagné's 9 events. And if you have any lesson plans that you're using currently that you think maybe need a little bit of update, um, you can have those handy to try and provide the AI with a little bit more context about what you're working on. And then the reflection journal at your side in case you make any insights that you want to note down. So, speaking of Notebook LM, this is something that I created in Notebook LM that I thought would be a nice way to showcase some of its capabilities now. Um, their slide remember exactly what it's called. Well, let me close this out so I don't keep getting these while I don't get any important messages. This is it's just called slide. I can't remember what it is, but it's a button that has slide in the title, and then you just press it, and whatever material that you've provided to that notebook, it will go through and create slides and based off of it. And I mean, it's not perfect, and we'll go through and I'll probably point out some of the things like I can tell you right now it's got this little section at the bottom for the university department logo. I guess I could go in after and put something over it. Um, but I just wanted to present this to you kind of as is, so y'all can see what like this is no real fine tuning. I gave it the source and I said create slides off of it. I find that it's better, that I've gotten better results recently than Gamma, which what was what I was using before to create slides really quickly. Um, and Google Notebook LM is, as far as I'm concerned, and from the experience, I don't think you have to pay for to use the Notebook LM feature. So they might, maybe if you're not on the pro tier, they might limit how many times you can use it, but I haven't run into any problems with that yet. So um, we can use it. You can use this moment here to talk about this week in AI. Has anybody experimented with Notebook LM and have anything that they want to share about their experience with it? I'll take no sound as no one has done it. I'll go ahead and hop into it real quick just so that I can show you all uh what you can do with it. Let me see here. So to just pick a random one here. Oh, here's what it's called. Slide deck. It's like something with slide in it. Um, okay, so what you can do, you can upload sources over here. This is just going to be a quick we talked about NopeLM before, so um but just very briefly, you put your sources in here, and what I've been doing is, whatever I'm teaching, I'll use that as the source. And so for this lesson, I just copied all of these things here, these bullet points, the main points that we wanted to talk about in this listen section. And then I put them, you can just enter copied text right in there. You can also upload YouTube videos, like links to YouTube videos. You can put websites in there. You can connect it to your Google Drive, and you can also upload any of these types of formats. And then it will, show you kind of what it's like, the main points that it's taken out of it. And then you can come over here and you can click any of these things, and it will take a couple minutes to put together. But then it comes out with something over here on the side, and like it's pretty good. The images make sense. The like for example, if we just look at this slide, it'll take like actual icons from different programs and websites and apps and put them in there. It like for the most part, the spelling is right. Like it flows logically. Um, yeah, I can give you an example. So for let's say you have a textbook, your class is textbook based, or I don't know what kind of content do you have your students consume in your class, Kelly?
Well, it's web-based, but there's reading material, there's videos, and then there's hands-on labs and projects that they do. So,
So anything that is like, they
and then
have to
stuff I
read
write.
something, and then
Yeah.
like we're I guess you would separate it with like they need to consume something, like take it in, and then they need to do something. If we take all the stuff that they need to consume and we load it into a notebook, and so let's say you make a notebook for each week. If you put all of that content in here into the sources, then you can share this notebook with them, and then they can go in and they can create an audio overview. They can create a video overview. You can do that too. Like, I'm working on a course right now where I'm suggesting instead of, well, in addition to reading this chapter, like you have a bunch of different options. If you want to read the chapter just as it is, it's an OER, you go to the website, you can read it, or you can look at this slide deck that was created. You can watch a video overview. You can listen to the podcast. Like I think we've talked about maybe the podcast aspect of it. You can create a mind map. Like they've got flashcards here. So you click the flashcards button and then it creates flashcards that they can kind of go through and study. And then not to mention the main thing here, this is just um, a chatbot that is just focused on those sources. So if let's say you're going through the slide deck and you're like, oh, I'm not really sure about this thing, you can put it in here and say, can you explain this in more detail, or can you explain it in this way?
If I were to do that, how do I differentiate my students without any personal information getting out there? You get what I'm saying? I think you know where I'm going with this, right?
I mean, like if this, I mean, the only personal information would be the personal information that the student would give to it. So you
Okay.
would just like say, I mean, if you're having them anytime they're going to be working with AI, I think that there should be a disclaimer that says, hey, like we're creating a AI literacy module for the students right now in the
Yeah.
TLC,
Right.
AI and information literacy. And one of the focuses of that is, like be careful about what you put online. It's the same thing of like, don't put your credit cards online, but like when you're interacting with AI, don't give any personal information.
So
Um,
so how would I, as an instructor, if I made this available to them and I
mhm.
said, okay, I want you all to go in there and give me your feedback on that, how would I be able to identify who posted what? Would I like just come up with numbers to identify each student? You're number one, you're number two,
What do you mean
without, do you know
to
what I mean?
identify?
Well, okay. What I'm thinking is I make this available to the students and I say, you guys go in and read this and then answer this or give me feedback on it. They wouldn't be giving me the feedback on that site using Notebook LM, would they? I would have them like do it on a separate paper and submit it to Canvas, correct? Do you get what I
I
mean?
guess for the feedback, what kind of feedback are you trying to get from like the feedback of their experience?
Okay, here's an example. One of my
Yeah.
assignments is they have to build a small office, home office network, right?
Okay.
Okay, they start small. They need to have a router, a DNS server, a DHCP server. They need to have a web server, a mail server, a file server, a VoIP server. And I give them all that particulars with the operating systems. And then I ask them to draw it out.
Hmm.
And and then based off of the information I give them, I want you to name them, give them IP addresses, etc. Tell me
Okay.
what port numbers are open.
Yeah.
They would collect that data from here, but then what they would submit would not be on Notebook LM, correct? It would be separate, like on
The Notebook
Canvas.
LM like portion of this is strictly for getting the information.
Okay,
So
that's
like
what I got. Okay,
yeah, so any sort of that's why I was saying at the beginning, like there's consuming versus doing. I'm sure there's a better way to explain it, but like knowledge
I get
in
it.
versus, showing out. Um, it sounds, like you could say I would set up for that specific example, I would set up a notebook that talks about how to set up a home network and, add any documentation like on the concept and,
Yeah,
maybe the steps on how to do it. But then that
I
sounds like
see.
that assignment, they would have to do that without AI. Like they learn how to do it here and
Yeah,
then they show how to do it in the assessment or, whatever Canvas assignment that you
but
create for
they're
them.
not inputting anything into that. They're just
No,
getting the data. They're getting the info. They're not sharing their response in there. I get it.
exactly. Exactly.
Cool.
Okay. So yeah, that's kind of what this idea that I've been playing with, and we're gonna it that kind of ties into what we're going to be covering today here when we're looking at universal design for learning and giving people multiple options for consuming information. Because when I looked at this person's course where they said, okay, you got to read 2 to 3 chapters per week, and it's not a textbook, it's a, it's a website that you have to go to. I don't want to spend, hours just like looking at a screen reading the stuff. I'm more of a, how can I make this into an audiobook so that I can listen to it while I'm, driving to work or doing chores, because for me, it seems like a better use of my time. I'm not the fastest reader. I don't enjoy reading, a lot at a time. I'm more of an audio person. Like I like to, I feel like I can get the same content, like I can understand it through audio better than reading through it. So, okay. So here I'll go through this presentation. It's the same information here, just a little reordered, and I think it looks a little bit nicer. So once again, all of this was created just by adding in the information here and then clicking that slide deck button there. All right, so modern teaching challenge, rigor, scale, inclusion. High workloads, it's tough here. We're in a difficult situation because there's a lot of different things that we have to do so that we can reach all of our students. It takes a lot of work to also do that, right? We already have high workloads. If we're going to make engaging, evidence-based lessons, it takes time and effort, right? The student diversity, right? Learners arrive with varied prior knowledge, abilities, and backgrounds. We need to be able to accommodate for that. I mean, I think our college and, maybe other colleges in the system, but ours particulars is quite diverse. And so how do we make lessons that are that are accessible, and able for them to understand, the points that you guys are trying to make, for them to reach those outcomes. And then pedagogical integrity, how do we innovate efficiently without sacrificing the quality and soul of our teaching, right? We want to be the teachers. We don't want to give it all to the robots. We want to be able to enhance the knowledge that we have and the content that we've supplied and created, but we don't want the AI to replace it, right? So you might look at this and say, oh, okay, why am I needed? If I can just create a notebook and just give it to my students, they can learn everything they need from the notebook. What's the purpose of me being here? And that's not the case. I think instructor expertise is always going to be necessary, and I think just maybe shifting, instead of having, it's always been sage on the stage, listen to what I say, forward way of giving the information. I'm personally, I feel like student-centered learning is much more effective for the students. Yeah, and then Kelly's saying here, I believe in making yourself available to assist diverse students, right? And then also, Kelly, what you're talking about here, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, we're going to talk about that as well. So here's the solution. You've got a proven blueprint plus some powerful tools. Gagné's 9 events, which we will talk about, is the blueprint that we could follow. And then generative AI could make it more efficient. So this is kind of the whole idea behind this course, is using AI to efficiently adjust any sort of content that we have in our course. This plus this is going to equal effective, inclusive, and manageable instructions. We'll see. We got the quote down here, solid pedagogy guides the tool, not the other way around. We use an established framework to ensure AI serves our educational purposes effectively. So this is where I don't know if I really agree. It's saying here, I mean, I can go either way. I think to label somebody as, like, if I say I'm an auditory learner, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like, I prefer large amounts of information in an auditory form, but I also like visual. I like watching YouTube videos, explainers, something that I can follow along with. I think everybody can appreciate kinesthetic, like, we don't want to be sitting down the whole time behind our computer screens. Anytime you can get your students up and moving around, that's going to be, I think, beneficial for them, more enjoyable. And then so learner variability is more complex. I think it's a mix, right? And it shifts. But I like the idea of that. But I think when you talk about learning styles, a lot of people say, "Oh, that's just an auditory learner, so I have to do everything auditory for that." I think each person shifts at any moment it can change. Um, Here's talking about UDL. So these are kind of the main three things in for UDL, if you're familiar with that. The first is engagement, or the why. So sparking interest, offering choices, and fostering motivation. Those are some ways that you think about why am I here? Why do I need to learn that? We talked about adding tilt to your assignments, adding a purpose statement so that the students know, okay, I'm going to learn this today because I'm going to use this in industry. And I know Kelly's given plenty of examples about, in his class, he'll very clearly put it up at the top so that the students know why they're learning the thing. Representation is the what, so presenting information in multiple formats in media. And so that's kind of gets into what I was just talking about with creating these notebooks. So having it as a video, having it as a podcast, just looking at the slide deck, studying with flashcards. That would be the what. And then action and expression, the how, allowing diverse ways for learners to demonstrate their learning. So then this would go into what Kelly was saying. Once they've got the information, how do they show me that they understand the information? They learned how to create a server. Now they have to go and actually create that server and use that knowledge. Catherine, did you have a
I'm
question?
sorry. Yeah, I did real quick because kind of as you're saying this, and I know that this is built for kind of enhancing our classroom with AI and everything. My thoughts on this is basically, in a sense, instead of handing them what is already written for them, if they're expected to use AI outside of industry, wouldn't it be a little bit wiser to empower them to utilize and leverage AI in a way that's going to help enhance their learning environment versus, if since every student is different, versus building additional things, or maybe as the instructor, you can build the additional things, but also have an assignment to where you can encourage them to build something
Mm,
utilizing AI in that aspect.
yeah, I like that. I mean, and it doesn't need to be one way or the other. Like, I think that the
Right.
purpose of UDL is giving the choice, giving the options.
Right.
Here are the things that I've created with it. Um, that's one aspect of it. But okay, here are some prompts that you can use in ChatGPT that might be able to help you understand it in a way, that is enjoyable for you. Like, okay, maybe you can say, take this concept, copy this concept into ChatGPT, and then say, kind of how we do in this class where we have the prompts and you have little boxes that you erase and fill in. Explain this as an analogy of this, and you fill in whatever you're interested in. Like, I think
Yeah.
I made this example before, but like make a Star Wars analogy about, setting up servers. And then it's like spits out this story where it's like, okay, this is how they created the Death Star, and you had to connect this to this and make sure the IPs, and it's like, oh, I'd much rather read that,
Mhm.
because that's something that I'm interested in. And so maybe guiding them that way and like giving that as an option of, oh, I can use AI to create these analogies to, of concepts that maybe I'm don't understand right now that are like a little bit like right above my level, and then brings it down so that that you can understand it in one way or the other.
Mhm.
Kelly, did you have anything to add to that? I think I saw your hand.
Um, I was just gonna back her up on that. I think it's dependent on what you teach. Because we teach IT and IT security, and AI is a massive part of that right now. Like our industry is changing really rapid,
Yeah.
but only certain areas are changing. Other areas are just getting busier, you know?
Mm, more
But
work.
being able to teach our students how to use it responsibly,
Hmm.
um, that's important to me. That's important to the NOS program. And how to, like build things with it, how to use it to benefit you. Um, a good example is this. My students have this massive project in Linux too. It's a big project. Um, they could, my thought is they could do the project, take that data, put it into their own database that can be recalled later. And then when they're working or out on a job and they run into an issue, they could log into that,
Mm,
search for how did I do that again, and bring that
mm.
right up. And they would be able to utilize that after graduation. Does that make sense? I think.
Yeah.
I
And
hope.
I think if anybody's familiar with ChatGPT projects, I believe it was. I know it was pro, you had to have like the paid version, not the super expensive one, but like the $20 a month one to access the project. I read that you can now access projects on the basic account, but like having your students set up a project for your course and any sort of help, any sort of extra assistance that they might need. Hopefully you can guide them through how to create one ethically and, like here are the documents that you can load up. But if they keep it in that project, then they can reference it later and say,
Right.
like the chats they're able to be referenced if they're in one project.
I'm actually using it, the projects for each of my courses.
Yeah.
And like I had a course change this quarter, so it's an updated course, new
Yeah.
number, new name. So I just created a new project for it, but I
Hmm.
can still recall the earlier versions of that class. But
Yeah.
it makes it quick for me when a student, runs into an issue, for example, and I'll think, man, I remember this. I've seen
Mm.
this happen. Hold on a minute. I can log in, bring up that project and search for that issue, and like I did it the other day, and I actually found it. Then I
Yeah.
could walk them through getting out of that issue, like what they needed to do to fix it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm also a big fan of projects. So, okay, just to kind of move on and keep the try to keep to time here. So, Gagné's blueprint. These are the 9 events. They're broken down into 3 phases. The first phase, you can kind of think of this as like breaking your class into like 9 different sections. You're not necessarily going to use every one every time, but just as like a general flow, research shows that this flow works. And like whenever I create classes, I try to stick to it as much as I can. And so I'll go over each of the phases in detail on the next couple slides. But the first phase here, setting the stage. Phase 2 would be the core instruction and practice. And then phase 3 would be closing the loop. And I thought Notebook LM made a nice image here of this circular going around, and it's got each colored section. Um, so we're talking about using AI here in along with this idea from Gagné. For that first phase, it can break it down into these 3 parts. The first one would be gaining attention. The second one would be informing of the objectives. And then the third one would be stimulating recall. Just to read through these quickly, you can use AI here to generate compelling hooks. You can ask it to create a surprising statistic from a recent study, a relevant current news event, though I've read recently about like there was some the big issue with Venezuela recently and how AI didn't really get that right. So not super current because they're still basing their knowledge on information that has been collected and has uh, has gone around in the large language model. It could create provocative questions or an interactive case scenario to capture student interest. So I mean, like maybe you have this at the beginning of your class, something to catch the attention of your students, let them, bring them back into class. AI can help you to create these things, though, that being said, if it's creating a surprising statistics, make sure you check that that statistic is actually true. Do your due diligence because it still does make stuff up. Informing the objective, task AI to refine your goals into clear, measurable, student-facing learning targets. Ask it to use frameworks like Bloom's taxonomy or generate I can statements with success criteria. So you can see on the, however I start the first, at the beginning of these sessions, I give you guys the objectives, right? Those, and they're aligned with Bloom's. They've got action verbs that are measurable at the beginning. Stimulating recall, develop quick diagnostic questions or knowledge activation activities. Prompt AI to create think, pair, share prompts, concept map starters, or brief polls to activate prior knowledge. This is, just kind of like bringing in their, as we talked about, people are, we have diverse learners from all different kinds of backgrounds and all different kinds of starting points. So trying to see where they are now in relation to what they're going to be learning about in the class. An example prompt here, act as an instructional designer, generate 3 attention-grabbing hooks for a university-level biology lecture on cellular respiration. So we'll look at some on the next, in the explore section on some more prompts that you can use and copy and, change to make it about your class. The second phase here, AI-assisted content delivery and scaffolding. So presenting the content is stage 4 of Gagné's 9 events. Number 5, providing learning guidance. And then number 6 is elicit performance. So for presenting the content, varied explanations, analogies, metaphors. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. So you might say to AI, generate scripts for short explainer videos or summarize dense academic readings at different complexity levels to support all learners. So having different levels for your different students or different types of content. As I said before, maybe you create a video or use Notebook LM to make the podcast. Presenting the content in various formats and allowing the students to choose what's best for them at that time. Provide learning guidance, develop scaffolded activities and step-by-step procedures. So this is here where they're practicing what they're learning, and you can use AI to generate a checklist for multi-stage assignments or create worked examples that model the desired process. So, you have them go through the process, but they've got like a checklist to follow, a step-by-step guide. Then we've got elicit performance. Number 6, create diverse practice opportunities for skill applications. So this is kind of where they're showing, that they know how to do it. So creating some low stakes quiz questions, practice problem sets with different variables or role-playing scenarios for applying the concepts. Those are all kind of standard, and you can use AI to create these pretty quickly. once again, double check it, especially if you're like making a multiple choice. You don't want to make sometimes AI will create multiple choice questions, and whatever the longest one is usually the correct answer. So make sure that you're aware there of some of the limitations of that and always go through it yourself. Okay, and then so they're showing you what they learned and hopefully meeting outcomes. The seventh step in this framework is to provide feedback. So develop specific, actionable, rubric-aligned feedback templates. You know, I love rubrics. I think we've talked about it before. It makes it very clear for everybody involved what's expected. And, you know, if you mark something that's maybe not the full marks, then you have something to point to and say, hey, I think you did great, but you were just missing, you know, this one thing. And I think AI is pretty great at creating rubrics. Something you might say, generate examples of what good looks like, or a list of common errors with explanatory feedback to address them. So maybe you've gotten their responses, and you say, okay, it looks like a lot of the students didn't understand this concept. So what can I do to explain this concept better in the future? Assessing the performance, so brainstorm varied and authentic assessment methods. This would be kind of like the final assessment. Prompt AI to design project-based learning tasks. Love PBL. Generate different question types for an exam, or propose authentic transfer applications. Kelly's example of creating a server, right? That's something that they're going to use in industry, and they need to know how to do it, and they need to know how to do it right. So that's kind of like the final assessment. And then the last part, I like to think of 9, enhance retention. This is kind of like what you're going to have them do after the class, the homework that they should complete to make sure that they retain the knowledge, creating review activities to support long-term memory. You can ask AI to generate summary tables, spaced repetition, review questions. That's another one I really like. It's kind of like flashcards, but not seeing the same thing every day. If you know something, then maybe you can see it a lot later. If you don't know something, then you see it a lot sooner. Or application ticket prompts that ask students to apply concepts to the next context. So here we have a case study, an inclusive intro to economics module. So here is the UDL principles and what you can use as AI in action. So multiple means of representation. This is that presenting content part and an example of a prompt you can use. I'm not going to read these word for word because y'all can do that. I'll put this one in the chat or quick access later on. I'd rather get to the prompts that we're going to work with in the Explore section. So I'm actually just going to skip that. And remember, you here are the architect, not the operator. The AI strengths here are brainstorming and idea generation, first drafts, not final draft, creation and summarization, creating variations and multiple formats. Once again, Notebook LM I'm really hot on that tool right now for creating multiple formats. And it's really good at pattern recognition. It's kind of what its thing is. But the irreplaceable expertise of the educator, you know, contextual knowledge of what the students need, especially, you know, the more experienced you are. You've been doing your classes over and over, you know, kind of where the students need extra help. You've also got the ethical judgment and quality assurance. You know what looks good at the end of the day. And curating, refining, and finalizing the content. Hopefully you know where you're getting your information from and what the best information to provide to your students. And then building that human connection and rapport. That is something that AI I don't think can ever replace. So do not worry. about AI taking your job. As long as you got these things, then I think you'll be okay. All right, there is some things, some considerations, and this kind of goes back to what Kelly was talking about with the privacy. And then this is what I was just talking about verifying everything. Um, Make sure you double check what AI outputs because it could be inaccurate or hallucinate. We know that. Fact check all generated content. If you're going to make a stat, make sure the stat is real. Protect privacy, never input sensitive, confidential, or student identifiable information into public AI models. Just don't do it. Adhere to all university and FERPA guidelines. Um, I mean, you wouldn't put any of your student information on the internet. You shouldn't be putting it into a big black box of we don't know where the data is going. And so, make sure if you have your students, make sure that they don't do that, but then also you all don't do that. Maintain your voice. If there is some output that is robotic, go in there and change it. Make sure that it reflects your unique teaching style, tone, and pedagogical approach. The tool should adapt to you, not the other way around. And also be transparent. Consider developing a clear policy for how you and your students use AI in the course. We talked about that with the AI usage tags. And then also, it's kind of a two-way street. I heard people say, oh, my instructor wants me to let them know when I use AI, but they don't let me know when they use AI. And so I hope you guys were clear that this slide deck was made with Notebook LM if you can't see that down in the right-hand corner. So all right, some key takeaways here at the end. Pedagogy guides technology always start with strong instructional frameworks like Gagné. Strong design principles ensure AI tools serve educational purposes effectively. Structure enhances creativity. So this, 9-stage structure from Gagné, it's systematic, it provides organization, and AI can enhance it. You can use it to help you take whatever, way you're doing it now. And maybe you don't need to change, but maybe you pop one of your lesson plans in now and see what AI comes up with. Maybe you'll find like 90% of it you don't want, but there's like a small section and you're like, oh, that could be a good way to start my class. Like I'm sure you all have examples of that where you're like, I didn't want to use like a majority of this, but there was like one thing that I really liked and I used in my class and it was good. AI excels at differentiation, so using it to generate multiple approaches and pathways to meet diverse learning needs. That's just good UDL practice. And efficiency enables quality AI assistance with routine planning tasks, frees up time and cognitive load for high impact activities like relationship building, establishing rapport with your students. And it gives you more time to focus on the student and not the content. All right, so that's kind of the gist of what the listen page is. There are some links down here, lots of stuff about Gagné and AI, if you want to check that one out or check those out. There's something here on universal design, and there's some other instructional design models if you're inspired by what you heard about with Gagné. Kelly says, I started using ChatGPT to create a fundamental Linux command guide for my students to help them remember when and how to use a command. Yeah, it's nice. And I'm sure if you had all the time in the world, you could put that together, but why not let AI do the bulk of the work and then you can just go in and refine and make sure it makes sense.
Yeah, I fed it a list of commands that are part of my Linux 1 course or Linux Essentials. And then I had it help me put together a guide, just a little book. It even created a cover for it. And I've been adding to it, to get and make it available to my students.
Cool.
So as they're going through the labs and building the projects, they can always recall it.
And I challenge you, that sounds awesome, but what if you had your students create it and then you go in and, you know,
Maybe second quarter class. Yeah, that would be a great
oh,
idea.
okay, okay, yeah, okay, this is first quarter. This is
Yeah, I have two Linux classes, the essentials, and that's what I built this for. That's the, introduction class.
uh-huh.
And then the advanced class, that's a great idea because that would really get them, and it would give them something they can take when they graduate and go to work that they can
And
access and have.
and they feel more vested in it because they created it.
Correct. Because I do side work at a data center, right? And so I'm lucky. I can come into class and go, they're always asking me, so what'd you deal with yes, last night? And then or last week, and I'll tell them, oh, this new malware or, you know, an attempt to, audit our network without our permission, if you catch my drift. But I give them that information and it gets them fired up. And then we go into class and they're more interested and they're more vested, vested into what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure.
So,
You got that credibility.
mhm.
That's awesome, and that's a way to gain attention. That's the first step of Gagné, is they want to hear from you what's happening right now in industry, and you're lucky to be in that position where you can give them give them what's going on. All right, so here is the Explore. We're going to be doing an AI assisted learning outcome workshop. In this exploration, we're going to experiment with using AI to systematically develop lesson components using Gagné, and we're going to test a couple different differentiation strategies for diverse learners. What you need is a preferred AI tool. I'm going to just use ChatGPT just because that's the one that I'm comfortable with. And I've also created the project in that. And so I'll show you a little bit about how the projects work. A lesson topic. So if you create a specific lesson that you can use, or you can just have AI create it. You don't have to have it, but usually the more context you give it, the better results. And then the student context, give it information about your students, not their ID, not their names, not that kind of thing, but just like generalities, right? I teach uh, lower level students. Like I, I'm going to give you an example of creating lessons for a um, tech literacy class that I teach, and a lot of the students that I have are English is not their first language. So I'm going to put in the parameters that I teach ESL students. That's what I mean when I talk about, the student context. After I just say, don't give information about your students. There's like a certain amount of kind of information that you can give. Any sort of personal identifiable information, you definitely don't want to put that into AI. Okay, so I've got let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger for y'all. I've got a prompt here to copy, and I'll put it into the chat if it will allow me. So if y'all want to um, do this on your own, alongside of what I'm working on here. I'm going to open up my ChatGPT and I'm going to open up my project that is for this tech literacy class. I'm trying to update a tech literacy class that I teach with the adult basic education. This is the project. And so if you can see, I've got my random chats here on the left, and then there's a projects section here. And basically a project, if I come in here, I say like, anything that I know I'm gonna need like more than one chat about, if I'm doing something related to a course, I'm gonna put that course in here. Or if I've got a presentation that I'm going to be giving, I'm gonna create a project based on that presentation. Just because it's good to have, here, I'll show you. you can upload documents into the project, and then any chats that you have will be able to access those documents directly. And so I'm trying to align this tech literacy class with something called the IC3, and that's a just like a digital skills certificate. And I don't necessarily, want or expect my students to try to get this certification, but I have it there because I like all of the objectives that they have. Now, you all probably have, you know, uh, certifications that your students have to get, and so entering in, the objectives of those certifications into a project as like this is the North Star. All my students need to be able to do all of these things. It's always going to be able to reference that in your chats within that project. Um, Anytime I create big documents related to that project, I'll put them in there. So like I created this project charter with the help of AI. And so once I got the charter, I saved it and I uploaded it into the project. I created the curriculum, I saved it, uploaded it into the project so that it always has it there. I've also got uh, universal backwards design, UBD. Can't remember what the UBD was exactly, but it's similar idea to backwards design, starting with the outcomes first and then working down to the assessments. So I'm just going to put my, so I wanted to explain all that because I'm not just using a basic chat for this one. I'm using an actual project that has the context that I want so that I don't have to, say what I want every time because context is king when you're working with these AI. The more it knows about, what you're working on, the less explaining that you have to do at the end. So for example, I'm going to go through here. I'm developing a lesson on, let's see, I'm just going to say I'm developing a lesson on uh, Canva basics because I want my students to at least know a little bit about how to use Canva, the app to create images and that kind of stuff. For ESL, it's a little bit bigger. I'm going to say ABE and ESL students in my Tech F 1 class. Help me create activities for Gagné's 9 events of instructions. My students are, okay, let's see, not very knowledgeable about computers, and English is not their first language. So when I say that, what it's going to do is it's going to bring the vocabulary level way down. You could say, you want your content to be at a junior high school level if you want to make sure that, it covers more people. Sometimes that doesn't work though. Sometimes you need to have specific terms, and if there are new terms that are introduced, make sure that you let AI know that this is too difficult. These words need a little bit more explanation. Put that one there. The lesson duration, this is 3 hours. And the objective, we'll say create a basic flyer in Canva. Okay. For each Gagné's 9 events, suggest one specific activity that fits the context, and then it has the 9 here, and make suggestions practical and feasible for my teaching context. All right, I'm going to pop that in. And pretty quickly, it's going to give me something. Let's see if it's useful. So I've got gain attention, as we said, was the first step there. So real life flyer spotting, show 3 simple flyers on the screen, a job fair, community event, ESL class, or a grocery sale. Ask students to point, not explain verbally. What do you see? This is great, especially for my ESL students. What do you see in these flyers? Okay, I see a picture of a dog. I see big text. I see colors, lots of different colors. Where might you see this? So it's getting them in, it's priming their brain for what they're going to be working on in the class. Keep the responses short and allow gestures or single words. Visual low language entry point that connects to everyday life. That's why this one works. And I agree. I think I like that. Inform the learning objectives. Today's goal poster, display 1 slide with icons and simple text. These are what we're going to be doing today. Read it slowly. Really making sure I remember. I've got ESL students. Ask students to repeat the word flyer together. Okay. Stimulate recall of prior learning. Ask yes or no questions. Have you used a computer? Have you typed your name? Now, depending on when I'm going to be doing this, like if this is week 4, I don't really need to ask, have you used a computer before? So I might take this out, right? Depending on when I'm going to be teaching this. Have you typed your name? That's way too basic. So I might have to go through and actually, I think there is, let's see, underneath. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step. I've got, the rest of them here. And one of the things I really like is that it gives the how many minutes it's going to take, like estimated. Now, I would have to go through and make sure like this is not going to take this amount of time. It's going to take a lot longer or a lot shorter. I think AI is not really good at understanding how much it actually takes to do stuff. And so double checking that is important. I'm going to say here, expand on, I've got another prompt to type in here. Expand on, I'm going to say, what was the one that I said? Okay, number 3. And I'm just going to take these out for now, but you could have however many numbers that you want if you want to, like maybe you're in the, what's this, the elicit performance stage. Maybe you need a little bit more than just this little basic section here. You're trying to make an actual lesson plan. You need a little bit more than students create a flyer with required elements, right? You might need that. That's where the rubric comes in. Actually, no, I think the rubric would be in the feedback section. So yeah, like number 7 doesn't have a rubric. I'm gonna add that in there. Number 7. And it says here, adding in exact instructions that I would give the students, materials or resources needed, timing and pacing. It's already got that in there. So actually don't need that. But actually I'll leave it there because I don't know if it had the pacing, for the each part, and how to adapt if the students struggle or excel. So including ideas for differentiation. Now I'm gonna make sure everybody knows it's 4 p.m. now. I'm kind of in the middle of this. I'm gonna finish this one off and then I'm gonna do one more thing. But if you need to go, thank you for coming. I appreciate your time. Um, I'm gonna finish this off and then I'm gonna end this. So, all right. So we've got ready to read classroom usable expansions on number 3 and number 7. So here we've got stimulate the recall. Before we start Canva, let's remember what we already know. Please look at me. You do not need to type. Raise your hand if you've used a computer before. Oh, and then it's giving me actual things that I can say, like a kind of like a script. That's pretty nice. Now make the connection. This is important. Typing your name is the same as changing text in Canva. So this one here, really great. Like, I don't think I would need it, but yeah, thanks, Kelly. I mean, but imagine, you're the first time in the class and you're like, I'm not even sure really what to say at these things. This kind of stuff can be helpful to give you some ideas on how to communicate with your students. It's got the timing and pacing. Minimum 8, ideally 12. Silence is fine. and then it's got the adaptation. So, I mean, I would have to go through this and, make sure there's stuff that I like or stuff that I don't like. But it's nice that it came up with all this stuff. Here are some quick evaluation questions if you are working on it yourself. Do they feel authentic? So like that first one, really authentic to my teaching style. Number 3 seems a little basic. Appropriate for your students, a lot of low-level vocabulary in there. It's going to be great for my ESL students. And then which events benefited most? So like, let's say you already have your lesson plan, which ones are being created that you like. Here, I just wanted to do this differentiated activity. So I'm just going to continue through with this thread that I've already created, just because I talked about UDL and I wanted to make sure that I included this in here. So this is for creating multiple versions of activities. So this would be maybe in the phase 2 of Gagné. Take this activity from my lesson. I'm just going to say, let's do which one was where they're actually doing stuff? Sorry for the scroll here, everyone. Eliciting performance. So create 3 differentiated versions. One for visual or spatial learners, one for auditory and verbal learners, one for kinesthetic hands-on learners. And then it gives a little bit on how to adapt it. And here are the classroom-ready versions of event number 6. Let's see here. Core idea for the visual and spatial. Students work from visual models and spatial cues, not the verbal explanation. The instructions here, this group will work by looking and copying. You will look at examples first, then you will make your flyer look similar. And then it gives them a little bit of differentiation. I didn't really catch what they were doing originally, but this looks like it is focused on that. I want to see what it is for the auditory. So this group is going to talk first. You'll say your ideas before you click. You can talk with your partner. So, like I said, people have different learning styles at different times, right? Like maybe I'm confident in using this and I just want to jump in, or maybe I want to talk about it first. Let's see. I think probably for this last one, this group will learn by doing. Click first, try, fix later. Mistakes are okay. And then it gives you a step-by-step on how to use that. So I'm just kind of going through this quickly because we're a little bit over time, but take these and use it. Copy these in there with a lesson that, like I said at the beginning, maybe it's giving you some trouble, or maybe you think it needs a little bit of updating. Take these prompts, adjust them for your class, and see if there's anything good that comes out of it. And yeah, there's a couple more stuff there for you to try out. So, feel free to interact with this in any way you would like. The apply is the main thing here. So I think it kind of brings everything together. So make sure to check that one out as well. Thank you all for coming. No, it's Friday, so I hope you all have a great weekend. See y'all next time.